off of their new disc, Long Day's Journey into Night. That is Redemption with Someone Else's Problem. And before that was Atreyu with Anger Left Behind off of In Our Wake. I'm Ken the Metal Professor. This is Mostly Metal here on WVLP 103.1 FM in Valparaiso, Indiana. Taking a brief interlude from the metal for Ken's Dark Corner. It's episode 6 of Ken's Dark Corner here on WVLP, a brief interlude within the Mostly Metal 2-hour block. Sunday nights replayed Wednesday nights, Sunday at 8, Wednesday at 10. And then this segment, usually about 50 minutes into the first hour, or, 54 as the case may be today, because that's when the music ended. This is the 6th week I've been doing this, and if I just think about it, it seems like I've been doing it for, less than a month, but it turns out I've now been doing it for a month and a half, which is kind of ridiculous. And I'm still enjoying it, so I'm going to keep it going. The first 5 weeks, what I did was give my own, I don't know if I'd call it a review, but just an overview and miscellaneous thoughts about various entries into the horror film or horror television genres. This week, all I want to do is let you know, if you don't already, where are some of the good places you can go to watch horror movies and what's a few recommended items off of each channel or each avenue that you can get them. And then next week, I'm going to come back and say some things about the movies of Rob Zombie. And you can watch 2 of the 4 I'm going to talk about if you have some of these services. And I'll be talking about the non-Halloween entries of Rob Zombie, but rather his 4 movies, House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, 31, and The Lords of Salem. Those latter 2 I just watched during the last week because they're available on one of the streaming services I use. And so this is sort of an overview of what streaming services do I use to get my horror, and where can you go if you're not already hooked up to these things. So I have, 4 major streaming services that I use to access my horror movies and horror TV shows. You can probably guess at least 3 of them. One of them's currently a little bit more under the radar. Also the name of a great Saturday morning sports show here on WVLP. The first one everybody knows is Netflix, right? Their selection varies from month to month, season to season in terms of how many things they have and how good they are. But there's always something there, and there's always new things coming around. So on Netflix right now, you can browse, I think you can browse by genre now. They added some new programming into their apps. I happen to watch, let's see, where do I watch Netflix on? I watch Netflix on my tablet, so it's directly the Netflix app, through a PlayStation, and also through a Roku. So I have the Netflix access on multiple screens around me at all times. If I were to recommend 5 horror movies on Netflix to go check out, which I am going to do right now, I would start with The Babadook and It Follows, and I grouped those 2 together because they were both relatively high profile and good horror movies from about a year and a half, 2 years ago, 2016, maybe early 2017. I don't exactly remember. It kind of all blurs into the background after a while. But The Babadook is, I believe, an Australian film, and it's about a mom who has weird things starting to happen to her son, centering around this spooky children's book that they have. It Follows is more of a, it's not a slasher film, but it's about people being followed by a creepy thing, and it's sort of a morality tale about premarital sex, I suppose, because there is a phantom kind of thing, an entity, a creepy thing that follows people and transference of being cursed by this thing moves from person to person after sex. So, but there's some really, really good creepy scenes in that. Two other movies I would lump together on Netflix, as if you watch one, you got to watch the other, would be The Wailing and Train to Busan. These are relatively recent Asian films. I believe they're both Korean. They're both long. The Wailing is a little bit over 2 hours long. It's spectacular. It's about a guy, investigator, reporter kind of person, I don't remember. But he's looking into disappearances and weird things going on in some areas around where he lives. And I don't want to say much about it, but it's really, really good. Train to Busan is basically a train packed with zombies. Yeah, but it's good stuff. So as long as you can deal with subtitles, and if I'm given the choice between subtitles or dubbed, I always take the subtitles because I don't want to miss out on the original voice acting performances, even if I can't understand them. So The Wailing and Train to Busan. The Shining, that's on Netflix. They brought it back pretty recently. My daughter's actually watching it. I just learned that today. She said she's almost done with The Shining and it's really good. And so I'm always happy when my teenage daughter watches something back from from my childhood that could be seen as somewhat outdated and still gets into it. So that's pretty cool. So Netflix is streaming service number one where you can go for horror stuff. And there's so much horror stuff there. I mean, if you're ready to watch crap like me, you can never leave it. But option number two is, of course, Hulu. I use that streaming service on multiple different screens as well. And the 5 I'm recommending on Hulu are actually lead entries in franchises, some franchises bigger than others, but they're all available on Hulu because they're all pretty old at this point. And they are The Blair Witch Project, the original one, Child's Play, the first one, Paranormal Activity, Children of the Corn, and Hellraiser. So all 5 of these launch points into all of those franchises are available on Hulu. They're all very good. They all launch movies which, let's just say, slightly diminish in quality as you go deeper into the series. But I've watched all of these series. I've watched all of the Hellraiser movies, the good ones and the bad ones. I've watched all the Children of the Corn movies. I think there's like 8 or 9 of them by now. Most of them were direct-to-video and pretty terrible. I think after I'm done going through the Rob Zombie movies and talking about those, I think I'm going to go back and watch all 4 Paranormal Activity movies and talk about those maybe in a couple of weeks. But anyway, Hulu is a good place to go for. There's a few new things there that might catch your eye, but more so for their archive of older things like these 5 I just mentioned. Speaking of mentions, I will mention that you are listening to WVLP 103.1 FM in Valparaiso, Indiana. This is your all-volunteer community radio station. We survive solely on underwriting and donations, so never be shy about getting in touch if you would like to underwrite this show or any others. You won't hear advertising on WVLP. You will only hear mentions in an NPR type of format where we say so and such programming is brought to you by underwriting of. We name the source, the company, whatever it is. We don't say, now go shop there. We give information about the company and then let people make their own decisions. But yeah, never be shy about contacting us, 476-9000. Or heck, email me, metalprofessor@gmail.com. In the middle here of Ken's Dark Corner, a slight interlude in the Mostly Metal 2-hour block, I'm telling you about my streaming services that supply me with all of my horror needs. I've already mentioned Netflix and Hulu. Third on the list, again, if you already know Netflix and Hulu, you're not surprised at all that number 3 is Amazon Prime. So I have that one's a little harder to get to on some tablets, or at least it used to be when Amazon was being jerks about having access to Amazon products on non-Amazon devices, but they seem to have gotten over that. So I have the Amazon Video app on my phone, on my tablet, on our Roku, on our PlayStations. So we can get it all over the place. The movies that I will recommend that you go check out, if nothing else, on Amazon Prime right now are Zombie. This is directed by an Italian Genesis original kingpin of zombie and horror gore movies from back in the 70s and 80s. This one is about zombies, and it's really, really good. It follows up in the Night of the Living Dead tradition of zombies that are slow, moping creatures that come get you. But this one is really, really good for the scenery. It's a foreign film. It's been dubbed, so you have to deal with that. But it's just, some of these movies end up being atrociously bad, and this one has all the same components as some of the bad ones, but somehow I end up really enjoying it. So check that out. It's called Zombie. That's not... These movies from the 70s have like 6 different names depending on the source and the distributor. So the version on Amazon is called Zombie, and you can tell you found it when the cover shown to you has a rotting zombie head looking right at you. Hell House LLC. This is a relatively new movie, an independent film about some people that start up a Halloween haunted house, and then they discover that there's actually stuff going on that's not them, and there's weird haunty things going on inside their haunted house for real, and things happen to people, and it's sort of a found footage kind of movie, but it's really, really strong, really, really well done. So I definitely recommend that, especially since we are in Halloween season. The Girl with All the Gifts. This is a British film about a girl with certain powers in a post-apocalyptic world that happens to be excellent. Deathgasm, which is a horror comedy from New Zealand about a black metal band that sing lyrics that happen to accidentally raise some demons, and then they have to fight the demons, and it's very, very funny. And then Dead Snow, Red versus Dead, which is a European movie. It's a sequel, but you don't have to have seen the original Dead Snow to really get into this. And it's another zombie movie about Nazi zombies rising from the dead and having battles with other zombies and other people. So the theme there, I guess, is zombies on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime is also great for catching up with old movies. They have their archives there that are free for Amazon Prime people. So they're not really free, but you have free access to all of them once you're in Amazon Prime. There is just dozens and dozens of, old black and white horror movies and sci-fi horror, all really, really good stuff that you can just dive into and never come out again. Okay, so those are my 3 primary streaming services that I use. The fourth one is called Tubi, T-U-B-I. This seems to be getting a little bit more notoriety. It's easy to find. I have an app on my phone, on my tablet, on the Roku. It's also on the PlayStation now. So I was able to install the Tubi app there. They have a surprisingly good selection, like Amazon Prime, of old movies, sci-fi horror, goofy sci-fi horror films, things like that. And they have some more recent movies as well. They're free, quote unquote, but there is advertising in the sense that they will interrupt the movie for some ads, almost like in a YouTube sense. The movies will play for 20 minutes and then we'll get interrupted for an ad. The ads don't last very long. Sometimes you get the annoyance of seeing 2 of the same ad in the same break, which is really aggravating. They don't time the ads well. I don't think anybody actually sits and places the ads carefully into the movie based on like coming out of a scene like they would on regular television. Sometimes it seems very random and a scene will just get interrupted. Whoop, we're going to break and here's the ad. And oh, now we're back right in the middle of where we were before. So that's unfortunate, but I get it. It's totally free, unlike Netflix and Hulu. So they have to get their revenue somewhere. The movies that I would recommend off of Tubi right now would include VHS. And if you like it, VHS 2. I'm sneaking that extra one in there. This is an anthology film. VHS is a movie about people that find old VHS tapes which have creepy videos on them, and you watch the videos. And there's generally 4 or 5 stories in each of the films. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. This is one of the very first horror films ever. It's right up there with Nosferatu as one of the classics. It is a silent movie, but it's very, very good, and I recommend that you check it out. Troll Hunter. This is a movie about people in Europe that are out in the woods looking for evidence of actual trolls, live trolls, and they find them, and then crazy things happen. Night of the Living Dead, of course, from the 60s. black and white zombie movie that started the whole zombie craze. That's available there. And then Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is a modern horror comedy that's very, very funny about two guys out in their cabin taking on dead things. So check those out. There are other options out there. Sony has a streaming service called Crackle. It's awful. Don't bother with it. Their selection is ridiculous. I went on there yesterday and I searched the horror genre and I came back with 3 hits. And if I searched under a more just A to Z kind of browsing, then I was able to see many more films that could be called horror, I guess. But all in all, the selection is terrible. So never mind that service. Shudder is also one, if you're a horror fan, you may have heard of. This is a horror-only streaming service. I believe it's like $5.99 a month. I had a free trial because of Amazon Prime. You can get a free couple of weeks with it. So give it a try if you want. I tried it and I discovered that I wasn't getting enough extra things that weren't available other places to justify going with it. But if I run dry with Amazon Prime itself, I may go back and fire up that Shudder subscription again. But they also have some current movies, but huge archive of older films. So if you like older films, that might be worth it. So anyway, that's where I watch my horror films, plus some recommendations. Let me zip through them really fast one more time. On Netflix, my recommendations currently are The Babadook, It Follows, The Wailing, Train to Busan, and The Shining. On Hulu, my recommendations are The Blair Witch Project, Child's Play, Paranormal Activity, Children of the Corn, and Hellraiser, just so you can get a sense of all those different franchises. On Amazon Prime, Zombie, the 1978 and 79 Italian horror flick, Hell House LLC, The Girl with All the Gifts, Deathgasm, and Dead Snow, Red vs. Dead. On Tubi, which you can get easy access to all over the place, VHS, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Troll Hunter, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, and Night of the Living Dead. That wraps up Ken's Dark Corner. Next week, I'll be back having watched the 4 non-Halloween full-length Rob Zombie movies, and I will talk about those. 31 and The Lords of Salem are both available on Tubi right now, so that's another reason to go out there. I have not found House of a Thousand Corpses or The Devil's Rejects available on any of these, I'm going to call them free streaming services. Yes, there's a subscription, but once you're in, you're not buying the movies on an a la carte basis, right? You just get access to everything. I have not found the first 2 zombie movies there, so I may pay a visit to Family Video and see if they have those on the shelves for $1 each. Otherwise, I'll pay $2.99 to watch them each for you as a gift from me to you. Another gift from me to you is the starting up of more music for a little while, for about 10 minutes, and then it will be the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program with an audio recap of last night's Pro Wrestling King event in Bourbon, Indiana. But in the meantime, let's listen to some fast, speedy tunes. This is Destinia with The End of Love off of Metal Souls.